So we have here something very interesting. This is the ZONDERVAN Thompson Chain-Reference Bible. Previously, it was produced by Kirkbride Bible Company. Kirkbride, according to their Facebook page, had been producing the Thompson Chain-Reference Bible since 1915. But at the end of 2020, ZONDERVAN acquired the rights to produce the Thompson Chain-Reference Bible. I believe that the Kirkbride Bible Company was having difficulty with their business, so ZONDERVAN took over the franchise. And it's going to be interesting to see the differences, and I will show you some of those today. I'm looking at I think a really interesting Bible. This is a New American Standard Bible in the 1977 text. So at this point, ZONDERVAN is actually producing the same translations and format of this Bible that Kirkbride was previously producing. Next year, the plan is for ZONDERVAN to come out with an updated format in their comfort print design. So the first comparison here is just to take a look at these boxes. As you can see, the ZONDERVAN edition here has a much cleaner design to it. The Kirkbride boxes were very busy looking. Now, they had a lot of information on them, on the front and on the back. Perhaps it is too much information, though, for a box. I don't know, that's just a matter of preference. But the ZONDERVAN Bibles definitely have a cleaner looking box to them. They do have information on the back here, if you want to pause the video and look at all of that. This one that I have is in the brown leather soft cover, so it is an imitation leather cover. It retails for $74.99. I do think that the ZONDERVAN editions are going to be a little bit cheaper than what you were paying for the Kirkbride editions. This box, though, is a two-piece box. And the Kirkbride box was a clamshell box. So ZONDERVAN has different covers available, different cover options, as well as different translations already available. So you have different choices right now, but I'm looking here at the NASB. This is not a translation I had in the Thompson Chain-Reference, and it's not only the NASB, it's interesting because it is the 77 text, which I know will make a lot of people happy if you are a fan of that older NASB text. Alright, so here it is. This is the ZONDERVAN edition of the Thompson Chain-Reference Bible. As I said, it's a brown leather soft, so their imitation leather, as you can see here, is actually really nice looking. It's got perimeter stitching. It's got a nice grain to it. There is the spine. Has a nice color scheme. You've got brown with a gold ribbon here. And I think that is a double-sided ribbon with a sheen on both sides. Gold gilt edges. Looks like brown head and tail bands. So I would say when you compare the outside of this Bible to the most recent Kirkbride Bible that I have, this is a genuine leather, burgundy. And honestly, a lot of people have mentioned this. This leather is not really all that nice. It doesn't have a very nice feel to it. It has very stiff feel. That might even be a stamped grain on there. And, you know, it suffices, but you were paying more for this than you are for this. And honestly, I think this cover overall is a little bit nicer. Now, the beginning of these Bibles, this one did have some nice cardstock at the beginning to really reinforce the Bible. It has a very hefty feel to it. It's also pretty thick. The ZONDERVAN edition, it has less at the beginning here in terms of cardstock. Just a thick in sheet here and then a presentation page. but not a lot of cardstock at the beginning and end of this. However, I would say overall this is really a nicer Bible to carry, bring around with you than the Kirkbride one that I have here is. This is just a little bit too hefty in my opinion for taking places. So I think this is actually, for a big Bible like this, you know, they really got a lot packed in here at a pretty portable size. I'm not calling it a highly portable Bible, but it's still portable enough, I think. Little lighter feel, and yet, in my opinion, the Zondervan still feels pretty solid. It doesn't feel flimsy to me. But this is a paste-down construction. The back of the presentation page has a scripture reference here. Then you get into your title pages. Now this is something that's going to make a lot of people happy when you look at the copyright page here. It is printed in 2021, but this is the thing that you don't often see with Zondervan Bibles, at least I haven't. It is printed in the United States of America. In recent years, Zondervan has really printed a lot in China. But the Thompson Chain-Reference Bible has been printed in the United States, as far as I know, in all of its production history. So it is good to see that they're continuing that. I know a lot of people will really be happy to see that it's printed in the USA. I'm assuming that all of the Zondervan Thompson Chain-Reference Bibles are printed in the USA. This one certainly is. And it'll be interesting to see when they do their Comfort Print edition if they continue to print it in the United States. Here is the contents page. You have a very extensive help section in the back of the Bible. I'm not going to go through all of that. I've actually looked at that in more detail before on another video. So feel free to look at that video if you really want to get all of the minute details of the Thompson Chain-Reference Bible. Here's the foreword to the New American Standard Bible, preface, principles of translation. Then you have also a preface to the Thompson Chain-Reference Bible. And we get into the Old Testament. And if you're familiar with the Thompson Chain-Reference Bible, you can see this is the beginning of the Bible that you expect to see. A chart of the Old Testament along with the New Testament. And that classic Thompson chain format. In the New American Standard, it is a verse by verse. Some of the translations, I believe, are paragraph format, but it is a double column verse by verse, and the paragraphs are denoted by bold verse numbers. It has translator notes under the biblical text, and you have this extensive chain reference system, which is really cool because it takes you to the next passage, but also in the back you have these numbers that actually have the entire chain references in one place for you to look at. Sometimes they're even printed out, which I will try to show quickly later. So I wanted you to see the printing here. I will say the printing on this is probably not as dark as other editions, previous editions of the Thompson Chain. But to me, it's still quite readable. There is some show-through, but I think that was also the case with more recent Kirkbride editions as well. The NASB also does have poetic setting with poetry. So here you can see it in the book of Psalms. You've got the stanzas. When you get to the New Testament, you have a New Testament title page, another chart here. So one of the features you'll see in the New Testament, you do have information about the author that you can look up in the back, the analysis of the book that you can look up in the back. And you will also see similar things in the Old Testament about the book and the author. But in the New Testament, you'll also have different subject headings throughout the book. So I think that's something you will see throughout each New Testament book, are those different subject headings here in the reference section. Now we get into the red letter, which is something that is talked about a lot with Thompson Chain Reference Bibles. and often not in a good way, because traditionally their red letter was not everyone's favorite. We'll just put it that way. Very bright, but in kind of like a pinkish way. And so this red letter is more of a muted red. I'm going to show you the difference though. So here is the Kirkbride red letter. And if you look at the two together, you can see that the Kirkbride is definitely a lighter red. And it's just not a very pleasant looking red to most people. On the left here, the Zondervan red, I think does look better. Now, as I said, the printing in the Zondervan is actually less bold. So this actually is kind of a bolder print in the Kirkbride. If we look at the black letter text compared, I think you will see that the Kirkbride on the right is a little bit darker, bolder print than the Zondervan on the left. On camera, though, I think they both look quite nice. In person, though, this one is a little lighter print. Also, and this can, I think, affect the way the print looks. This paper here in the Zondervan has more of a gray hue. This is a brighter white paper in the Kirkbride. So I think that just creates a greater contrast with the print and the paper in the background. So overall, what you're looking at here, I think, is a little starker print, a little easier to read, I would say, overall, in this Kirkbride versus this Zondervan. That being said, this is still readable, nicely printed, and that red letter is definitely improved in the Zondervan, in my opinion. Now, there is a little bit of inconsistency with the red letter printing. I think on this page in the book of Luke, this is a lighter red than other places. But that's very common with red letter print, to have some variance in the darkness. It just is more noticeable than with black print. But again, I would still say that this red print overall is an improvement over the Kirkbride. So the Thompson Chain-Reference Bible has a wonderful chain reference system that you can see next to the biblical text. A lot of people just love this format. As you can see, it's just really organized looking. I think even the line spacing on this is really nice, even though the print is, I think, an 8.3 font. So it's not the biggest print for the text, but still, overall, it's quite readable and very nice looking. But at the end of the Bible, you have just this really extensive helps section. So here's a general index of chain reference topics. And then you have a detailed index. And as I said, you not only have all of the references, sometimes they actually print out those references so that you can see them all right there. You can actually read each verse connected with each other. So that is, just a really unique and wonderful feature of this Bible. They have outline studies of the Bible. I said I wasn't going to go into deep detail, so I won't. I will say, though, concerning some things like this origin and growth of the English Bible, they talk about different translations. And this section does need to be updated. I'm sure there are other places they need to do some updates. But I noticed, for example, they don't even have the English Standard Version or the Christian Standard Bible. The New International Version, I don't see anything said here about the NIV 2011. So it's probably hasn't really been updated since the 90s. But just wonderful, wonderful detailed information. They have character studies, charts, Bible harmonies, and illustrated studies. There's also an archaeological supplement here. It's not a colorful Bible, I will say. It's all in black and white, but still a lot of great information. It also has a concordance. And after the concordance, there is a map section with an index to the maps. Then the maps, which are printed on kind of a semi-gloss cardstock paper. They are the traditional Thompson chain maps, but they're very nicely printed. And then after the map section, you just have that final end sheet and the paste down liner in the back. That is the end of the Bible. So my overall impressions of this Bible are that for the price, it's actually really nice. It is printed in the U.S., and if you want to really support U.S. printing, I encourage you to get a copy of this Bible. That being said, I know this is going to be controversial, but I think because Zondervan usually prints in China, they probably would have gotten a little bit better product had they printed it in China, just based on what I've seen with their other Bibles. Now that could change over time. If you keep buying U.S. printed Bibles from Zondervan, maybe that will improve the quality of the U.S. printings. But the printing itself is not amazing. The paper just has this crinkling in the middle here. You can see it actually got a little bit wrinkled. The paper color, as I said, is a little bit grayish. It would be nicer to see some high contrast paper like you have here in the Kirkbride. Although ghosting is going to be an issue with a Bible with so many pages, so they also still need to somehow keep that ghosting from being too noticeable. The ghosting in this is not that bad. It's actually similar to the Kirkbride, but the paper color, in my opinion, could definitely be improved. And just the overall paper itself, I'd love to see them get something a little better than this. Also, the print, as I said, could be bolder. I think the comfort print that they're coming out with is going to be bolder, and it's probably going to take care of that issue. And I don't want to overemphasize, I don't think it's a faded print. It's just not as dark as the Kirkbride. But the comfort print, I'm really interested to see what that's going to look like. I'm also interested to see if they're going to be able to do line matching with their new editions. That will be fascinating to see. But if they can improve that paper and that print boldness, I really think this Bible is going to be even better for your money than the Kirkbride Bibles were. So that is a look at the Zondervan Thompson Chain-Reference Bible in the NASB translation. If you have any questions or comments about this Bible, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. But thank you so much for taking a look at this Bible with me, brought to you from a Frisch perspective.